Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defender, watching the strange ship approach through the darkness of space. The vessel looked nothing like human technology. Its surface was smooth and silver, shaped like a long crystal that caught the light from distant stars. It moved without any visible engines, gliding silently toward Earth's outer defenses near Jupiter. "Sir, we're getting signals from the unknown craft," said Lieutenant Amy Chen, her fingers dancing across the communication controls. "It's not like anything we've heard before, but the computer is trying to translate." Jake nodded, keeping his eyes on the massive view screen. After 200 years of searching for life beyond Earth, humanity had finally found it, or rather, it had found them. The alien ship was 3 times larger than the Defender, and Jake could see strange markings along its hull that seemed to glow with their own light. Captain Lisa Harper entered the bridge, carrying a tablet with first contact protocols. She had trained for this moment her entire career, studying languages and diplomatic procedures. Her team of specialists followed behind her, all looking nervous but excited. "Admiral, we're ready to attempt communication," Lisa said, taking her position at the diplomatic station. "Our linguists think they can establish basic contact within the hour." The alien ship suddenly stopped moving, hovering in space about 10,000 kilometers away. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Something about the way it moved suggested incredible power held in check, like a predator deciding whether its prey was worth the effort. "Incoming transmission," Amy announced. "Audio and visual." The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of the alien vessel. The being that appeared was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal. Its eyes were large and completely black, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like music mixed with the hum of machinery. "I am Veltar, commander of this vessel," the alien said, its words somehow perfect English despite clearly being translated. "You are the dominant species of this system." Lisa stepped forward, activating the diplomatic channel. "Welcome, Commander Veltar. I am Captain Lisa Harper of the United Earth Defense Force. We greet you in peace and friendship." Veltar's expression didn't change, but something in those dark eyes suggested amusement. "Your species calls itself human, yes? We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have come to evaluate your world for integration into our empire." Jake felt the temperature on the bridge seem to drop several degrees. This wasn't the peaceful first contact humanity had hoped for. He moved closer to Lisa, ready to take control if needed. "Integration?" Lisa asked carefully. "We'd be happy to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchanges, but Earth is not looking to join any empire." Now Veltar did something that might have been a smile, though it looked more like a crack appearing in stone. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. We are informing you of what will happen." Another alien appeared on the screen, smaller than Veltar but with the same metallic skin. This one carried what looked like an advanced computer device. "Commander," the second alien said, "our scans of their military capabilities are complete. Intelligence Officer Crixon reporting." Veltar gestured for the report to continue. Crixon looked at his device and began reading. "The humans possess 12 warships in this immediate area, armed with primitive nuclear weapons and basic kinetic projectiles. Their largest vessel appears to be 800 meters in length. Technology level suggests early space age development. Threat assessment, Category 3, minimal resistance expected." Jake gritted his teeth. The aliens had scanned only the patrol fleet stationed near Jupiter. They had no idea about Earth's real defenses, the shipyards on Mars, or the massive military installations hidden throughout the solar system. Humanity had learned long ago to keep its true strength hidden until needed. "Based on this assessment," Veltar continued, turning back to face the human delegation, "your species will surrender unconditionally within 72 standard hours. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your major population centers." Lisa tried to maintain her diplomatic composure, but Jake could see her hands shaking slightly. "Commander Veltar, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Earth has no intention of surrendering to anyone. Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution that benefits both our species." Veltar's laugh sounded like breaking glass. Your 12 ships against our fleet of 200 vessels? Your nuclear weapons against our quantum disruptors? There is no misunderstanding human, only inevitability. The alien commander leaned forward and his image filled the screen. We have conquered 47 worlds using these same methods. First, we evaluate the local military strength. Then we offer surrender terms. Those who accept live as servants. Those who refuse are eliminated. Jake stepped into view of the camera. And if we choose neither option, there is no third option, Veltar said simply. Your species appears to have some intelligence, so we will be generous. 72 hours to consider our offer. Use this time wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Jake stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his communications officer. Amy, get me a priority channel to Earth Command. Use the quantum relay. Yes, sir. Channel open. Jake took a deep breath. Earth Command, this is Admiral Morrison aboard the Defender. We have made contact with a hostile alien species calling themselves the Zephyrian Collective. They have issued an ultimatum for Earth surrender. Request immediate activation of Protocol 7. The response came back within seconds. Admiral Morrison, this is General Pete Williams at Earth Command. Protocol 7 is authorized. Repeat, Protocol 7 is now active. All defense networks are coming online. Lisa looked confused. Admiral, what's Protocol 7? Jake turned to face his crew, seeing the same question in all their eyes. These were good people, brave people, but they were part of the Outer Patrol Fleet. They didn't know about humanity's real military capabilities. Protocol 7 is the full mobilization of Earth's actual defenses, Jake explained. What the aliens scanned was just our early warning system. They think those 12 ships are our entire space navy. Colonel Danny Brooks, the Defender's Marine, commander, had been standing quietly near the tactical station. Now he stepped forward with a grim smile. Sir, how long before the real fleet gets here? Jake checked his chronometer. The Mars shipyards will have the first wave ready in 18 hours. The lunar defense platforms are already powering up their main weapons. And the deep space patrol fleets. He paused, thinking about the massive ships currently stationed in the outer system. They'll be here in 36 hours. Amy looked up from her console. Admiral, I'm picking up movement from the alien ship. They're heading back toward the edge of the system. Good, Jake said. Let them go report to their fleet. Tell them they found a primitive species with 12 ships and no real defenses. Lisa was still processing what she had heard. Admiral, are you saying we've been deliberately hiding our military strength? Not hiding, Captain, just being careful. Humanity learned a long time ago that showing all your cards too early can be a mistake. Those aliens think they know what they're dealing with. Jake looked back at the view screen, where the alien ship was growing smaller as it departed. They're about to get the surprise of their lives. Colonel Brooks chuckled. I almost feel sorry for them. They probably think they're about to conquer another helpless world. How wrong they are, Jake said quietly. How very wrong they are. The USS Defender continued its patrol as the alien ship disappeared into the darkness, carrying news of Earth's supposed weakness back to the Zephyrian fleet. None of the aliens realized they had just made the biggest mistake in their species' history. The emergency meeting room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains had never seen so many important people at once. President Maria Santos sat at the head of the long table, her face serious as she listened to the reports coming in from around the world. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials filled every seat, their voices creating a steady hum of urgent conversation. General Pete Williams stood at the front of the room, pointing to a massive holographic display that showed the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of alien ships, while blue dots showed human vessels. To anyone watching, it looked like humanity was badly outnumbered. The alien fleet consists of approximately 200 ships, General Williams explained. They're currently positioned at the edge of our solar system, probably planning their attack. Based on Admiral Morrison's report, they believe our total military strength consists of 12 patrol ships. President Santos leaned forward. How long do we have? Our best estimate is 60 hours before they reach Earth, Williams replied. But that gives us enough time to show them what humans are really capable of. Dr. Ashley Monroe, head of the Advanced Weapons Division, activated her tablet and connected it to the main display. The hologram changed to show technical drawings of ships and weapons that looked far more advanced than anything the aliens had seen. Madam President, our quantum torpedo systems are fully operational, Dr. Monroe reported. The adaptive AI defense networks have been running simulations for the past 6 months. Every major weapon system we've developed is ready for deployment. Major Kate Sullivan joined the presentation from her position on Mars. Her image appeared on one of the smaller screens around the room. Behind her, massive construction bays stretched as far as the camera could see, filled with ships in various stages of completion. Mars shipyards are operating at full capacity, Kate reported. We have 67 heavy cruisers ready for immediate launch and another 112 vessels that can be combat-ready within 48 hours. The manufacturing plants have been working around the clock since we received the Protocol 7 authorization. Commander Rick Torres appeared on another screen, this one showing the cratered surface of the moon behind him. Lunar defense platforms are fully charged and targeting systems are online. We have clear firing solutions on the alien fleet's current position. The gravity wells we installed last year are ready to activate on your command. President Santos nodded, then turned to the man sitting beside General Williams. Colonel Brooks, what's the status of our ground defenses? Colonel Danny. Brooks, who had been transported to Earth immediately after the first contact, stood up and activated another display. This one showed a 3-dimensional map of Earth with thousands of tiny lights scattered across all continents. Every major city has defensive installations that the aliens never detected, Brooks explained. Our underground bunkers can house the entire population if necessary, and each one is equipped with its own power source and life support systems. The surface-to-space missile systems have been hidden in mountains, under lakes, and even in the middle of deserts. The president looked around the room, seeing determination on every face. These people had spent their careers preparing for this moment, even though they had never known when or if it would come. How is it possible that the aliens missed so much? She asked. Dr. Monroe smiled for the first time since entering the room. Because we learned from our own history, Madame President. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know the value of deception, of making your enemy underestimate you. Every piece of our real military infrastructure is hidden, shielded, or disguised. General Williams pressed a button on his control pad, and the hologram zoomed out to show the entire solar system. Suddenly, thousands of new blue dots appeared scattered throughout space from Mercury to beyond Pluto. This is our actual military presence, Williams said quietly. Deep space monitoring stations, hidden weapons platforms, automated defense, drones and patrol fleets that the aliens never detected because they only scanned the immediate area around Jupiter. The room fell silent as everyone stared at the display. Even people who worked in the military were surprised by the sheer scale of humanity's preparations. Major Tony Hughes, commanding officer of the Titan Research Station, appeared on screen. Our long-range scanners have been tracking the alien fleet since they entered our system. Their ships are impressive, but they're designed for intimidation rather than actual combat. They rely on their reputation and superior numbers to win battles before they start. Captain Amy Foster, leading a squadron of ships near the asteroid belt, added her report. The hidden bases in the asteroid fields are fully operational. We have ships stationed inside hollowed-out asteroids, completely invisible to standard scans. The aliens have no idea we're here. President Santos stood up, and the room immediately became quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment humanity has been preparing for since we first looked up at the stars. Not the moment we hoped for, but the moment we knew might come. She walked to the front of the room, standing beside the holographic display. These aliens think they're dealing with a primitive species that will surrender without a fight. They're about to learn that humans don't surrender. We adapt, we overcome, and we protect what's ours. Colonel Nancy Wright, commanding the North American Defense Grid, raised her hand. Madam President, what are our rules of engagement? Do we try to disable their ships, or do we fight to destroy them? We give them one chance to withdraw, the President replied. After that, We show them why humanity survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and every other disaster our planet could throw at us. General Williams activated his communication system. All stations, this is Earth Command. Protocol 7 is now fully active. Repeat, Protocol 7 is fully active. All defense. Networks, hidden installations, and deep space fleets are authorized to reveal themselves on my command. Responses began coming in from around the solar system. Ship commanders, station chiefs, and base commanders all reported ready status. The asteroid belt bases were operational. The Jupiter system defenses were online. Even the research stations near Saturn had weapons systems that were now powering up. Dr. Jennifer Shaw, head of the Xenobiology research team, stepped forward. Madam President, we've been analyzing the alien transmissions. Their technology is advanced, but it's also predictable. They've been using the same basic designs for hundreds of years because they've never needed to innovate. What does that mean for us? President Santos asked. It means they're not prepared for human creativity, Dr. Shaw explained. They expect us to fight the same way every other species they've conquered has fought. They're going to be facing tactics and weapons they've never seen before. Major Sam Rodriguez, leader of the Special Operations Command, grinned. They're going to learn that humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure our enemies never want to fight us again. The president looked around the room one more time, seeing the faces of people who represented the best of humanity. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and leaders who had worked together to prepare for this day. General Williams, how long before our fleets are in position? 36 hours, Madam President. The Mars fleet will arrive first, followed by the Lunar Defense Forces and then the Deep Space Patrol groups. And our secret weapons? Dr. Monroe's smile grew wider. Ready for deployment. The aliens are about to discover that human technology isn't primitive at all. We've just been very good at hiding it. President Santos nodded. Then let's show them what happens when you threaten Earth. General Williams, begin fleet deployment. It's time to let humanity's true strength show itself. As orders went out across the solar system, hidden bases came alive with activity. Ships that had been waiting in the darkness began moving toward Earth. Weapons systems that had never been used in real combat started their activation sequences. Humanity was about to reveal that the 12 ships the aliens had seen were not their navy at all. They were just the beginning. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his main screen. Behind him, 200 Zephyrian warships moved in perfect formation, their crystal hulls catching the light from the local star. This would be another easy conquest just like all the others. Commander, Intelligence Officer Crixon reported, we are detecting the same 12 human vessels near the fourth planet. They appear to be maintaining a defensive position, but they are making no attempt to flee. Veltar made the sound that passed for laughter among his people. Foolish primitives. They think 12 ships can stand against our fleet. Perhaps they hope to die bravely rather than surrender. The Zephyrian fleet had conquered so many worlds that the process had become routine. They would arrive in overwhelming numbers, demand surrender, and then either accept submission or destroy resistance. No species had ever surprised them. No species had ever been strong enough to fight back effectively. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet, Communications Officer Jexal announced. Put it on screen, Veltar ordered. Let us hear their final pleas for mercy. The main display flickered, then showed the bridge of a human ship. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the center, his uniform neat and his expression calm. Behind him, human crew members worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Commander Veltar, Admiral Morrison said, I am Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered our solar system without permission and threatened our world with destruction. Veltar stepped forward, amused by the humans' confidence. Admiral Morrison, your species has had 72 hours to consider our terms. What is your answer? Our answer is simple, Morrison replied. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. The Zephyrian bridge fell silent for a moment, then erupted in the musical sounds of alien laughter. Veltar could barely believe what he had heard. Admiral, you command 12 primitive vessels against our fleet of 200 advanced warships. Are you suffering from some form of mental illness? Morrison's expression didn't change. Commander, I think you should look at your sensors again. Veltar turned to Crixon, who was staring at his instruments with growing confusion. Intelligence officer, what are your readings? Commander, I am detecting additional contacts. Many additional contacts. How many additional contacts? Crixon's metallic fingers moved rapidly over his controls. I count 50 new vessels. No, wait. 100. No, that cannot be correct. Veltar moved to the sensor station and looked at the display himself. New ships were appearing everywhere, seemingly materializing out of empty space. They had been hidden somehow, invisible to Zephyrian sensors until now. Commander, Lieutenant Commander Steve Palmer's voice came over the communication channel. You're looking at our home defense fleet. These are the ships that protect Earth when the real Navy is away. Captain Amy Foster's squadron emerged from behind several large asteroids, their ships much larger than anything the Zephyrians had expected. Major Tony Hughes led another group of vessels that had been hiding in the shadow of one of the gas giant's moons. Veltar watched his tactical display as more and more human ships appeared. The numbers climbed from dozens to hundreds, then kept climbing. Each new vessel that revealed itself was larger and more heavily armed than the 12 ships they had originally detected. This is impossible, Veltar whispered. Our scans detected only 12 ships. Your scans detected only what we wanted you to detect, Admiral Morrison explained. We've been monitoring your approach since you entered our system. We know your ship classes, your weapon capabilities, and your tactical patterns. Colonel Nancy Wright's voice joined the conversation from one of the planet-based defense stations. Commander Veltar, you are currently being targeted by 437 weapon systems located on Earth's surface, lunar installations, and orbital platforms. The Zephyrian commander felt something he had never experienced before. During a conquest, fear. His species had built their empire on the principle of overwhelming force. They always brought more ships than their enemies could possibly match. But now they were facing an enemy that seemed to have more ships than they did. How many vessels do you possess? Veltar demanded. Admiral Morrison appeared to consider the question. This is just our home defense fleet, Commander. The main battle groups are still on their way. Crixon looked up from his sensor station, his dark eyes wide with shock. Commander, I am now detecting over 800 human vessels in this system. The number is still climbing. Captain Helen Davis led a formation of heavy cruisers that dwarfed the largest Zephyrian ships. Admiral Chris Ryan brought additional reinforcements from the outer system, ships that had been patrolling near the edge of human space. Commander, Admiral Morrison continued, you made a critical error in your intelligence gathering. You assumed that the first ships you encountered represented our full military capability. You never considered that we might be hiding our true strength. Veltar tried to contact his home fleet, but found that his communications were being jammed by human technology he didn't understand. Every channel was blocked, every frequency was filled with interference. Commander Luke Anderson's Technical Warfare Division had been jamming Zephyrian communications since their fleet entered the system. Dr. Jennifer Shaw's xenobiology team had analyzed the alien technology and found ways to disrupt their most important systems. This is not possible, Veltar said more to himself than to anyone else. We have conquered 47 worlds. No species has ever possessed this level of military strength. No species you've encountered before was human, Admiral Morrison replied. We've been preparing for this day since we first reached the stars. We knew that someday we would meet a species like yours, one that believed in conquest through intimidation. Major Sam Rodriguez's special forces had been infiltrating the Zephyrian fleet since they arrived, using stealth technology that made their small ships invisible to alien sensors. They had been gathering intelligence and preparing for sabotage, operations if necessary. The tactical display on Veltar's bridge now showed human ships everywhere. They surrounded the Zephyrian fleet completely, with clear firing solutions on every alien vessel. The humans had achieved something that should have been impossible. They had outmaneuvered and outnumbered a vastly superior alien force. "Commander Veltar," Admiral Morrison said, his voice still calm and professional. "You have two choices. You can order your fleet to withdraw from our system immediately, or you can discover what human weapons are capable of." Veltar looked around his bridge, seeing fear in the eyes of his crew for the first time in their military careers. These Zephyrians had never faced an enemy that could match their strength, let alone exceed it. "You cannot have this many ships," Veltar said desperately. "Our intelligence reports show that your species has only recently developed space travel." "Your intelligence reports were based on what we allowed you to see," Morrison explained. "Humans learned long ago that the best defense against a stronger enemy is to make them underestimate you. We let you think we were weak and primitive while we prepared our real defenses." Captain Rachel Stone's diplomatic vessel moved into position, ready to begin formal negotiations if the aliens chose to surrender. The ship was heavily armed despite its peaceful mission, another example of human preparedness. Veltar realized that his entire worldview was crumbling. The Zephyrian collective had built their empire on the assumption that they were the strongest military force in the galaxy. Now they faced a species that had not only matched their strength, but exceeded it through careful planning and deception. "What do you want from us?" Veltar asked, his voice defeated. "We want you to leave our system and never return," Admiral Morrison said. "We want you to understand that Earth is not defenseless, and humanity is not weak. We want you to remember this day when you consider threatening other worlds." The human fleet maintained their positions, hundreds of ships ready to fire on command. But they waited, showing the restraint that had originally led the aliens to underestimate them. Veltar had a choice to make, and for the first time in his career he was facing an enemy that was stronger than he was. Just when Commander Veltar thought the situation could not get any worse, his sensor officer made an announcement that sent ice through his veins. "Commander, I am detecting a massive hyperspace signature approaching from the outer system," Crixon reported, his voice shaking. "Multiple signatures. Very large vessels incoming." Veltar stared at his tactical display as new contacts began appearing at the edge of the system. These ships were different from the ones already surrounding his fleet. They were bigger, much bigger, and they moved with a purpose that spoke of serious military power. General Patricia Lee stood on the bridge of the Earth starship Titan, a vessel so large it could carry 3 Zephyrian ships in its cargo bay. Behind her, the main human battle fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. These were not the home defense ships that had already shocked the aliens. These were the vessels designed for deep space warfare. "Admiral Morrison," General Lee said over the communication channel, "the Terran Expeditionary Force has arrived. I count 200 Zephyrian vessels in the target area." Admiral Morrison's face appeared on screens throughout both fleets. "Welcome to the party, General. Our guests were just learning about human hospitality." Admiral Chris Ryan brought the Second Fleet into position on the other side of the alien formation. His ships were sleek and fast, built for hit-and-run tactics, but each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small city. The Zephyrians now found themselves completely surrounded by human vessels that outnumbered them 3-1. Captain Helen Davis commanded a squadron of assault ships that had been designed specifically for ship-to-ship combat. Her vessels looked like floating weapons platforms covered in gun ports and missile tubes. They took position directly in front of the Zephyrian flagship, their weapons trained on Veltar's bridge. "Impossible," Veltar whispered. "No single species can possess this many warships." Commander Luke Anderson's voice came over the communication system from his technical warfare vessel. "Commander Veltar, we've been monitoring your communications attempts. You're wondering how we built so many ships so quickly." Veltar nodded, even though he knew the humans couldn't see him. His species had never encountered anything like this level of military preparation. "The answer is simple," Anderson continued. "Humans have been building ships for 300 years. We didn't start when we met you. We started when we first realized we might not be alone in the universe. Dr. Jennifer Shaw's research vessel moved closer to the alien fleet, its sensors analyzing Zephyrian technology in real time. "We've been studying your ship design since you first entered our system, Commander. Your technology is impressive, but it's also predictable. You've been using the same basic patterns for centuries." Major Sam Rodriguez's stealth ships had been moving through the Zephyrian formation, completely invisible to their sensors. Now they revealed themselves, appearing right next to alien vessels like ghosts materializing from empty space. "Commander," Rodriguez said, "my ships have been beside yours for the past 6 hours. We could have disabled your entire fleet at any time." Veltar felt his legs grow weak. The humans had not only surrounded his fleet, they had infiltrated it. They could have destroyed every Zephyrian ship without warning, but they had chosen not to. This level of restraint was almost more frightening than their obvious military superiority. "What kind of species are you?" Veltar asked, his voice barely a whisper. Admiral Morrison appeared on the main screen again, his expression serious but not cruel. "We're the kind of species that prefers peace, Commander, but we're also the kind that will fight to protect what we love." Captain Amy Foster's engineering division had been analyzing the Zephyrian ships since they arrived. "Commander Veltar, your vessels are well designed for intimidation, but they have serious weaknesses. Your shields are strong against energy weapons, but vulnerable to kinetic impact. Your hulls are beautiful, but they shatter when hit in the right places." Veltar looked around his bridge, seeing the same shocked expressions on every face. His crew had never imagined that they might encounter a species that could analyze their technology so quickly and completely. "We've been preparing for this meeting for generations," General Lee explained. "Not specifically for your species, but for any species that might threaten Earth. We've run thousands of simulations, built weapons for every possible scenario, and trained our people for every type of combat." Commander Gary Powell's logistics division had been calculating supply lines and resource management since the crisis began. "Commander, we can maintain this level of military readiness for years, if necessary. Our industrial capacity is spread across multiple worlds and asteroid installations. You cannot outproduce us or outlast us." The scope of human preparation was becoming clear to Veltar. This was not a species that had quickly assembled a defense force. This was a civilization that had spent centuries preparing for war while hoping for peace. Dr. Laura Bennett's cultural analysis team had been studying Zephyrian behavior patterns since first contact. "Commander Veltar, we understand your species' methods. You rely on fear and overwhelming force to achieve quick surrenders. But humans don't surrender. We adapt, we learn, and we overcome." Major Tony Hughes coordinated the space-based defense platforms that had been hidden throughout the system. "Every asteroid, every moon, every orbital station in this system has been converted into a weapons platform. You're not just facing our fleet, Commander, you're facing our entire civilization." Veltar realized that the humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every piece of space debris, every natural satellite, every seemingly empty region of space contained hidden weapons and defenses. "How long have you been preparing for this?" Veltar asked. "Since the day we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone," Admiral Morrison replied. "We hoped we would meet friends out there, but we prepared for the possibility that we might meet enemies." Captain Rachel Stone's diplomatic vessel moved into a position where it could be clearly seen by the Zephyrian fleet. "Commander, we're prepared to discuss terms for your peaceful withdrawal from our system. We don't want to destroy your fleet, but we will, if necessary." The human fleet maintained perfect formation around the aliens, but Veltar noticed something that confused him. Despite their obvious superiority, the humans were not attacking. They were waiting, showing a level of discipline and restraint that he had never seen in a military force. "Why haven't you destroyed us?" Veltar asked. "You clearly have the capability." "Because destruction is not our goal," Admiral Morrison explained. "We want you to understand that Earth is protected and that humanity is not weak. We want you to carry this message back to your leaders." General Kevin Clark's Strategic Planning Division had been analyzing the broader implications of the conflict. "Commander, we know about your empire. We know about the 47 worlds you've conquered. We've been watching you for months, learning your patterns and preparing our response. Veltar felt the last of his confidence crumble. The humans had not only prepared for his attack, they had been studying his entire civilization. They knew more about the Zephyrian collective than he had thought possible. "What do you want from us?" Veltar asked, his voice defeated. "We want peace," Admiral Morrison said simply. "We want you to leave our system and never return. We want you to understand that there are species in this galaxy that you cannot conquer." The human fleet waited in perfect silence, hundreds of ships ready to fire but holding back. Veltar realized that he was facing something entirely new in his experience, an enemy that was stronger than he was, but that chose mercy over destruction. For the first time in his career, Commander Veltar was completely outmatched, and he knew it. Commander Veltar stood in silence on his bridge for several long minutes, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet completely surrounded by human vessels. His officers waited for orders, but he had no idea what to command. Every option seemed to lead to the destruction of his entire force. "Commander," Crixon said quietly, "what are your orders?" Veltar looked at his intelligence officer, then at the rest of his crew. These Zephyrians had followed him across the galaxy, trusting in his leadership and the superiority of their fleet. Now he had to make a decision that would determine whether they lived or died. "Open a communication channel to the human admiral," Veltar said finally. Admiral Morrison appeared on the main screen, his expression patient but alert. Behind him, human crew members continued their work with quiet efficiency, showing no signs of stress despite being in the middle of the largest military confrontation in their species' history. "Admiral Morrison," Veltar began, his voice steady, despite the fear he felt. "I wish to discuss terms for the withdrawal of my fleet." Morrison nodded. "I'm listening, Commander. My ships will leave your system immediately and never return. In exchange, you will allow us to depart without attack." "That's a start," Morrison replied, "but not enough. We need guarantees that the Zephyrian collective will never threaten Earth or any human colony again." Veltar felt a moment of confusion. "Human colonies? You have established settlements beyond this system?" Captain Rachel Stone's diplomatic vessel moved closer, and her image appeared on a smaller screen. "Commander, humanity has been expanding into space for over 200 years. We have colonies on 43 worlds, research stations in 12 other systems, and exploration fleets mapping new regions of the galaxy." The revelation hit Veltar like a physical blow. The humans were not just defending one world. They were protecting an entire interstellar civilization. The scope of his miscalculation was even worse than he had imagined. "How many humans are there?" Veltar asked, dreading the answer. "Earth has a population of 12 billion, Admiral Morrison replied. "Our colonies add another 8 billion. We're not just one planet, Commander. We're a spacefaring civilization with the industrial capacity to match." General Kevin Clark's strategic analysis team had been preparing documentation about human expansion. "Commander Veltar, we've been monitoring your empire's expansion patterns. You target isolated worlds with small populations. You've never encountered a species with our level of organization and resource base." Veltar realized that every assumption his species had made about warfare was wrong. The Zephyrians had built their empire by conquering primitive worlds one at a time. They had never faced a civilization that spanned multiple star systems. "What assurances do you require?" Veltar asked. Captain Stone activated her diplomatic protocols. "First, your fleet will return to Zephyrian space immediately. Second, you will broadcast a message to your government explaining what happened here. Third, any Zephyrian ship that enters human space in the future will be considered an act of war." Commander Luke Anderson's technical team had been analyzing Zephyrian communication systems. "We'll be monitoring your transmissions, Commander. We want to make sure your leaders understand exactly what they're dealing with." Veltar nodded slowly. "And if we agree to these terms? Then you leave peacefully and we consider this incident closed," Admiral Morrison said. "We don't want to be your enemies, Commander, but we will not tolerate threats against human worlds." "Doctor, Laura Bennett's Cultural Analysis Division had prepared recommendations for long-term relations. Commander, there's something else you should know. Humans don't just defend themselves, we also protect our allies. Any species that becomes our friend gains the protection of our entire fleet. The implication was clear. The Zephyrians could either become enemies of humanity and face the consequences, or they could find a different path forward. What kind of allies? Veltar asked. Captain Amy Foster's engineering teams had been studying ways to share technology safely. We're willing to establish trade relationships, share certain technologies, and provide mutual defense agreements, but only with species that prove they can be trusted. Veltar looked around his bridge one more time, seeing hope beginning to replace fear in his officers' eyes. The humans were offering something the Zephyrians had never experienced. A choice between destruction and cooperation. I accept your terms, Veltar said finally. My fleet will withdraw immediately, and I will personally ensure that our government understands the situation. Admiral Morrison smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Excellent, Commander. Captain Stone will provide you with coordinates for a neutral meeting point, where our diplomats can work out the details of future relations. Commander Gary Powell's Logistics Division began coordinating the safe passage of the Zephyrian fleet out of the system. Commander Veltar, we're transmitting navigation data to help your ships avoid our defense installations. We don't want any accidents during your departure. As the Zephyrian ships began to move away from Earth, Veltar found himself thinking about everything that had happened. His species had spent centuries believing they were the strongest military force in the galaxy. In a single day, that belief had been completely shattered. Admiral Morrison, Veltar said, may I ask you something? Of course. How long would it have taken your fleet to destroy our ships if we had chosen to fight? Morrison considered the question carefully. Honestly, about 6 minutes, but we're glad it didn't come to that. The casual way Morrison delivered this information sent a chill through Veltar's body. The humans could have eliminated his entire fleet in minutes, but they had chosen to negotiate instead. This level of restraint from such a powerful military force was almost incomprehensible. Major Sam Rodriguez's special operations teams began escorting the Zephyrian fleet to the edge of the system. Commander, we'll be providing escort until you reach the hyperspace jump point. It's not because we don't trust you, it's because we want to make sure you get home safely. Dr. Jennifer Shaw's xenobiology team had been preparing first contact protocols for future meetings. Commander Veltar, we're also transmitting information about human culture and history. We want your people to understand who we are and what we value. As his flagship moved toward the edge of the solar system, Veltar began composing the message he would send to the Zephyrian High Command. How could he explain that they had encountered a species that was not only stronger than they were, but also more merciful? Commander, Crixon said, what will you tell the High Command? Veltar thought about the question for a long moment. I will tell them the truth, that we have found a species that could conquer the galaxy but chooses not to. That makes them more dangerous than any enemy we've ever faced, and more valuable than any ally we could hope for. The Zephyrian fleet reached the hyperspace jump point without incident. As they prepared to leave the system, Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communication channel one final time. Commander Veltar, safe travels. We hope this is the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our species. Admiral Morrison, Veltar replied, I believe it will be. My people have learned something important today. Sometimes the strongest species are also the wisest. The Zephyrian ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Behind them, the human fleet began returning to their hidden bases and patrol routes, once again appearing to be nothing more than a small defensive force around a single world. But now, scattered throughout the galaxy, other alien species who had been monitoring the confrontation began to reconsider their own assumptions about the small blue planet and its inhabitants. Word spread quickly that humanity was not the primitive species they appeared to be. Within weeks, diplomatic envoys from dozens of civilizations began arriving at Earth, all hoping to establish friendly relations with the species that had defeated the Zephyrian collective without firing a single shot. Humanity had announced its presence in the galaxy not through conquest, but through the demonstration of power tempered by wisdom, and the galaxy would never be the same.